A structured craft just violated the restricted airspace of the International Space Station, and the Pentagon is treating it like a state secret. This is a key detail because the object was filmed by multiple cameras before the live stream was abruptly terminated.
The International Space Station is important in terms of the UFO phenomenon because for around 20 years we've had these elite personnel, astronauts and scientists out there in the front line. So when these people say that they've seen something, you can take that to the bank.
After a very short time of recording it, the video just goes blue. And you could think, once again, this is a case of NASA just cutting short a transmission of something that shouldn't be there.
As ufologists, we were waiting for this long-awaited report coming from the Pentagon, which is allegedly going to blow the lid on the UFO phenomena and give us more answers to what we've been looking at.
There are still many rumors on the air, but what many can confirm is that the government intervention was immediate and total. And that is putting it lightly.
It's part and parcel of governments is to keep secrets.
If there was an admittance by the establishments that UFOs and aliens were real, it would cast doubt upon their authenticity because they have concealed this subject for decades.
We are looking at the specific data points that suggest this was not a natural phenomenon or space debris. This is the truth about the classified ISS object. Orbital anomalies. Low Earth orbit is becoming a very crowded neighborhood, but some of the residents were never invited. The International Space Station sits about 250 miles above the surface of the Earth, traveling at a staggering 17,500 miles per hour. At that speed, the station completes a full trip around the planet every 90 minutes. Because of this, the cameras mounted on the exterior are constantly scanning the horizon. Most of the time, they see the beautiful curve of our world, or the black void of space. However, a recent incident has sent shockwaves through the investigative community. A large metallic object appeared on the horizon, moving in a way that suggested intelligent control. It did not tumble like a piece of a broken rocket, and it did not glow like a meteor entering the atmosphere. It stayed perfectly still relative to the station, which is almost impossible unless it was matching that 17,500 mile-per-hour pace with precision. This is a key detail because matching speed in orbit requires incredible amounts of energy and sophisticated tracking. But here is the catch. As soon as the object moved closer to the station, the live feed that thousands of people watch every day went black. So this has happened before, but this time was different. Usually, NASA blames a loss of signal on satellite switching. This time, however, the Pentagon stepped in and took the raw data files from the ground servers. Sources within the aerospace community claim the footage was moved to a classified server under the control of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. What most people do not realize is that once the military classifies a space event, it is effectively removed from the public record. And this object was estimated to be at least 60 feet long and had a reflective surface that seemed to absorb the radar pulses from the station. For starters, no known satellite has those characteristics. The object stayed in the vicinity for exactly 4 minutes and 22 seconds before it shot upward at a speed that would have crushed any human pilot. The acceleration was calculated at over 100 Gs. To put that in perspective, a fighter pilot passes out at 9 Gs. The Pentagon has refused to comment on the nature of the object, only stating that the footage contains sensitive national security information. This is a classic move to bury something that cannot be explained. Nobody expected this to happen during a routine maintenance window, but the timing suggests the object knew when the station was most vulnerable. The presence of such advanced technology so close to our primary orbital laboratory is a game changer. It suggests that we are being watched by something that does not care about our borders or our secrecy. The mystery only deepens when you look at the thermal data that was leaked before the classification order. The object had no heat signature, meaning it had no traditional engine or exhaust. It moved through the vacuum of space using a propulsion system that we can only dream of. This is the deal with the classified ISS object. It is a silent witness to our progress, and now it is a ghost in the machine of government secrets. Evidence of this encounter suggests we are not the only ones using low Earth orbit for surveillance. Ground control silence. The history of the International Space Station is filled with moments where the screen goes blue just as things get interesting. It is a running joke among space enthusiasts, but the reality is much more serious. See, the live feed is the only window the public has into what is happening in orbit. When that window is slammed shut, it is usually because something has appeared that should not be there. In the case of the recent classified object, the feed did not just cut, it was looped. This means for several minutes, viewers were looking at old footage while the real event was being recorded on private servers. And get this, the technical team at Johnson Space Center was reportedly ordered to step away from their consoles while a remote team took control of the data stream. And this is not that simple, though, because independent researchers were recording the feed on their own equipment. They noticed the discrepancy immediately. The stars in the background of the looped footage did not match the actual position of the station at that hour. This kind of sophisticated cover-up suggests that whatever was near the station was of extreme importance. What many can confirm is that the government has a protocol for what they call high-interest events. And these protocols are designed to prevent the public from seeing advanced technology or unidentified craft in real time. The crazy part is that NASA is a civilian agency, yet they are forced to follow these military directives. Every time a glowing sphere or a triangular craft appears on the horizon, the signal conveniently drops. In one instance, a group of 5 glowing lights was seen flying in a perfect formation below the station. They were moving over the Pacific Ocean at an altitude of about 100 miles. As the ISS cameras zoomed in, the feed was cut for over an hour. When it came back, the lights were gone, and NASA released a statement saying they were reflecting light from a squid fishing fleet in the ocean. But here is the catch. Squid boats do not fly in formation at 100 miles of altitude. This kind of gaslighting is what makes people lose trust in official explanations. The recent classification of the ISS object is just the latest chapter in a long book of suppression. The Pentagon uses the excuse of national security to hide the fact that they are just as confused as we are. Or worse, they are hiding a relationship with these objects. There are reports of a secret database known as the Black Vault, where all ISS anomalies are stored. This vault is said to contain thousands of hours of high-definition video showing crafts of all shapes and colors interacting with the station. Some of these objects have been seen docking with the exterior of the station in the middle of the night, away from the eyes of the civilian crew. This suggests a level of cooperation that the public is not ready to hear. The deal is that the space station is not just a lab, it is a meeting point. The more we watch the sky, the more we realize the government is watching the watchers. Non-human tech. When you analyze the movements of the classified ISS object, you quickly realize that our understanding of physics is incomplete. The object did not have wings, it did not have a tail, and it did not have any visible means of thrust. Basically, it looked like a polished stone made of some unknown alloy. It hovered in the vacuum without any RCS thrusters, which are the small jets of gas that our satellites use to stay in position. If a normal satellite tried to do what this object did, it would have run out of fuel in minutes. But this craft stayed perfectly stable for the duration of the encounter. It is not that simple, though, because the object also appeared to warp the light around it. Some researchers believe this is evidence of a gravitational drive. By creating a localized gravity field, the craft can move in any direction without feeling the effects of inertia. This would explain why it could accelerate at over 100 Gs without falling apart. For starters, This kind of technology would make our most advanced rockets look like steam engines. The material of the craft is another mystery. Radar data indicated that the object was both solid and translucent at the same time. It was as if the craft was out of phase with our reality. And this is a key detail because it suggests the object might be transmedium. This means it can move through space, our atmosphere, and even the ocean without changing its speed or structure. We have seen similar objects in the famous TikTok videos captured by Navy pilots, but seeing one at the altitude of the ISS is even more significant. It shows that these objects are comfortable in every environment we have. The Pentagon classification likely centers on this propulsion system. See, if a foreign power like China or Russia had this technology, the United States would be in a lot of trouble. But the truth is, nobody on Earth has this. We are still struggling to get a simple rocket to the moon, while this object is playing tag with our space station. The crazy part is that the object seemed to respond to the station's radio frequencies. When the crew tried to establish a handshake signal, the object changed color from a dull silver to a vibrant violet. And this suggests it was communicating or at least acknowledging the station's presence. And that is putting it lightly. We are dealing with an intelligence that is far beyond our current capability. The data that was classified includes the electronic signatures of this interaction. If we could decode that signature, we might finally understand what these things want. But for now, that information is buried under 10 layers of government red tape. And the physics of these objects suggest a future that we are not yet allowed to touch. Orbital defense. There is a growing theory among insiders that the classified ISS object might not be alien at all. Instead, it could be part of a secret space program that has been operating in the shadows for decades. See, the United States military has a budget that is almost impossible to track. Billions of dollars disappear every year into black projects. Some believe these funds have been used to build a fleet of craft that use reversed engineered technology. This is the deal with the TR-3B theory. It is a triangular craft that reportedly uses a mercury-based plasma to cancel out 89% of its mass. If the object filmed by the ISS was a version of this craft, it would explain why the Pentagon was so quick to classify the footage. They are not hiding aliens. They are hiding their own toys. Hands down, the military would want to keep this a secret to maintain a strategic advantage over the rest of the world. But here is the catch. If we have this technology, why are we still using dangerous liquid fuel rockets to send astronauts into orbit? It does not make sense to keep the crew of the ISS in a fragile tin can if we have gravity-defying ships available. This leads many to believe that the secret space program is a separate entity entirely, possibly a breakaway civilization that has its own goals. Nobody expected this kind of divide, but the evidence is mounting. The object near the ISS could have been a scout from one of these hidden bases. What most people do not realize is that the space station might be a neutral ground where different factions of this secret program meet. And the classification of the footage is a way to prevent the two worlds from colliding. If the public found out that we have had the ability to travel to Mars in days rather than months, there would be a revolution. The economic impact of free energy and gravity control would destroy the oil and gas industries overnight. So, the powers that be choose to keep us in the dark, watching a looped video feed of a quiet Earth, while the real action happens just out of frame. The crazy part is that some astronauts have hinted at this. They talk about the music of the spheres or the feeling of being watched. They know the truth, but they are bound by non-disclosure agreements that carry heavy penalties. The recent ISS sighting was just a slip-up in their security, a brief moment where the curtain was pulled back. Behind the veil of official science lies a world of military power we can barely imagine, the beyond classification. The pressure on the Pentagon to release the truth about the ISS object is reaching a breaking point. We are entering an era where civilian technology is rapidly dismantling military gatekeeping. With thousands of private satellites and high-powered telescopes now in the hands of the public, the government no longer holds a monopoly on the observation of our immediate orbit. The classification of the recent ISS footage might represent one of the last successful attempts to bury a major orbital anomaly. While rumors continue to circulate, the analytical consensus suggests that disclosure is no longer a choice, but a mathematical inevitability. The challenge for the state is not just the presence of these objects, but the impossible task of explaining 7 decades of systematic denial. To manage the fallout, the intelligence community will likely employ a drip feed strategy, rebranding these encounters as atmospheric phenomena or sensor artifacts until public interest wanes. However, the opposite is happening. Curiosity is shifting into a rigorous, crowdsourced investigation that treats the sky as a frontier already occupied by unknown actors. These craft represent a leap in evolution that bypasses our traditional understanding of physics. Whether they emerge from a secret bunker in Nevada or a fold in another dimension, their presence demands a total reassessment of orbital sovereignty. One increasingly credible theory suggests that these objects are not visiting from distant stars, but are cryptoterrestrials that have occupied our upper atmosphere or the lunar far side for millennia. In this scenario, the ISS isn't just a laboratory. It's an unwitting neighbor to a civilization that has mastered gravity control. These observers might be using the ISS as a benchmarking tool to monitor our progress in propulsion and materials science. Some analysts propose that the ISS object was actually a biomechanical entity, a form of plasma-based life that thrives in the high-radiation environment of thermospheric space. If life can evolve in the depths of our oceans without sunlight, there is no logical reason it couldn't emerge in the vacuum of low Earth orbit, feeding on solar winds and electromagnetic discharge. Another more disturbing possibility is the breakaway civilization hypothesis. This theory posits that a clandestine group within the military-industrial complex achieved a breakthrough in non-Newtonian propulsion as early as the 1950s. This shadow entity operates a fleet of trans-medium craft capable of instantaneous acceleration. Under this framework, and the ISS object wasn't an alien threat, but a high-level test of spoofing technology designed to see if civilian and international astronauts could distinguish between a physical craft and a projected holographic decoy. This leads to the time-dilated drone theory. These objects could be autonomous probes sent from a future human civilization. Using gravitational warping to navigate the fourth dimension, they return to this specific era, the dawn of our true spacefaring age, to observe the pivotal moments before we either destroy ourselves or transcend our planetary limits. The mystery of the ISS object serves as a reminder that we are part of a much larger narrative than the one found in history books. We must stop viewing the sky as an empty void and recognize it as a crowded theater of operations. The more data we acquire, the more our conventional models of reality begin to fracture. And the only certainty is that the truth is moving at 17,500 miles per hour just above our heads, invisible only because we are told where not to look. We must demand the raw, unedited telemetry from the International Space Station, which is a global asset belonging to humanity, not a private laboratory for the Pentagon. Every frame of video captured by those cameras should be public record by default. Until the data is liberated, the public will continue to reconstruct the truth using leaks, independent sensor arrays, and deductive logic. They can classify the digital files, but they cannot classify the human drive to understand the environment. We are the ones who will define the future, and that future requires us to accept that we are being watched by silent observers who are waiting for us to mature. The final question is not whether the government will tell us the truth, but whether we are prepared for the ontological shock of the answers waiting in the dark. Are we looking at the greatest discovery in human history, or just a very expensive military secret? This classified ISS object changes everything we know about our sky and who really controls it. What do you think is hiding in that forbidden footage? Leave a comment below, like this video, and subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown.